Hello guys, my name is Adriana Deras and I'm a student at Baton Rouge High, and I'm actually currently enrolled in Ms. Bumgarner's 8th history course. A few weeks ago, we were able to attend the New Orleans Museum of Art and just see so many different works of art and how culture has influenced this art. And it was just a wonderful experience, and during this time I actually chose the artwork that just meant the most to me, and it was the carved commemorative panel right here. And throughout my blog, what I'll basically be doing is just looking at this artwork in 3 different objectives. The first one is just function and context and content, and just what the artist has done, why, and how that makes the audience just react and feel and things like that. And then move on to tradition and change, which I will compare two different artworks from 2 different cultures in Mesoamerican culture, and then move on to how the audiences have changed and how this has affected the artwork itself. So again, this is the carved commemorative panel. It is made of limestone and pigment during the classical period, and it can actually be attributed to the Mayas. The classical period is actually known to be around c. 760, which is around this time that it was made, probably. But according to the New Orleans Museum of Art, it was actually found in an ancient city of the Mayans known as El Cayo. El Cayo is actually located around a river called the Usumacinta. The Usumacinta was located near Mexico and Guatemala, and what you could see around the city was it was a very important trade route. It was a city where other cities were being built up, and so it was very important to the Maya culture, especially because this Maya is the lowland Maya. And keep that in mind as we go on, because as you may know already, the Maya were a very were people that progressed and were a very advanced society. You can see that there was a lot of skills in mathematics and a very strong writing system. And this writing system was very important to the lowland Maya, especially because they contributed to including it in a lot of their artwork. So you can see it in the sculptures and the paintings and lintels and panels and things like that. So it is no surprise that they included it in this one. So as you can see, the writing is actually hieroglyphics, and it's found around the artwork right there, and it is also high relief. The hieroglyphics is high relief, the figures are high relief, and all the other parts of it, there's actually little to no negative space around the artwork, which is something that you see a lot in Mesoamerican art, in the Yaxchilán lintel 25, and the Coyolxauhqui stone, and now in this one. If you look closely, there are 3 different figures depicted. One is taller than the other 2. This technique used by artists is known as hierarchy of scale, in which they make one figure especially taller or bigger than the other, just to show their importance and their eminence in this specific society. So as you look again, the taller figure is this one. We can at first view of it, we can think maybe it's a king or a priest or someone of importance, but as you can see, the audience's eye goes directly from his headpiece to his feet, which is something that the artist most likely intended, so our eye can move vertical. This vertical line creates a feeling of stability, a feeling that this person holds the society up, that this person contributes into keeping the society in place. And then we can move on to the second figure, which is this one, which is the second tallest of them all. He's not as overly dressed as the center figure, where we can see the details of the lines and things like that, which only goes to show that he's important, because the artist took the time to go and just make every single detail as perfect as possible. So then you see the other figure which is also vertically aligned, so our eye goes directly from the top of his headpiece to the bottom, and again our eyes travel like this. And then the other figure is this one, where we can't see as much, probably because of nature and things like that, because something that archaeologists have said is that after the Maya period ended, this artwork actually went back and stayed there, and the jungle just took it back. And so we can barely see it, but we can kind of infer that maybe it's a peasant, maybe it's someone of lower class. And then around the artwork again is the hieroglyphics. The hieroglyphics basically contain spirals and circles that seem to go on infinitely. This may be a sign of infinity, a sign of that this culture was supposed to go on, and things like that. Again, at the first sight of this, we can maybe infer that it is someone of high importance. Actually, according to the New Museum of Art and the information that was given, he is actually a military general. A military general that died, and then 3 different important people decided to commemorate his importance and his significance by creating this panel. His actual name was Juj Khan, and on June 25th, a Mayan lord decided to increase his title to Sajal, which means collector and military leader. The lintel was actually carved 3 months after his death, and it was a dedication to his burial, and what is actually a dedication to his burial and to his significance of his culture. But what is actually going on around it is a fire entering ceremony, which is a dedication of his death and a dedication of him going into the underworld, which is something that we see with the hieroglyphics, because according to Mark Robinson, which is a writer of the about the hieroglyphics of the Yaxchlan Lintel 25, the hieroglyphics is actually supposed to represent someone in the underworld looking outward. So that again is supposed to back up the idea that he was actually going into the underworld. So the basic function of this artwork again is that it was not only political but also religious, and also a very personal function for this military general, which was being recognized with this great testimony and ceremony of his greatness. And this kind of leads us on into the other part, which is the tradition and change. And with that, I will bring out the calendar stone. This is a calendar stone, as you have already may seen. It's very well known. It's actually known as the sun calendar, just because it just appears like a sun. It appears like rays are coming out. The calendar stone is actually found in the Templo Mayor in Tenochtitlan, which is modern-day Mexico City, and it was of the Aztec culture during 1375-1520 CE. If you look directly into it, you can also see that there is little to no negative space, high relief along the entire work, and it's also you can divide it in all different sides, which means it is symmetrical, which you can also see in the other one, in this one. And also the fact that archaeologists, according to Khan Academy, think that it was also painted. So again, we see this idea that artists took the time to paint. It was something that not only went from the Mayans but also went to the Aztecs a few years later. So it was a technique that continued to happen, to paint the works in reds and things like that, and that is how they think both were painted. Even in this one, you can still see traces of red along here, but it's basically disappeared because as time has continued, it has eroded, and it just has gone away. But it is something that we see in both artworks, that the techniques continue to still be there. There are techniques that have been passed on from generation to generation, but the only difference is that the function of this artwork has changed. No longer are we seeing depictions of kings and rulers and military generals, but we're seeing something that functions more for the society in more of a more useful, more efficient way. Here, according to Khan Academy, we're actually seeing a god. You can see that by the tongue that's coming out and the earlobes right here. He's the god of the sun, and he's the god of Mexico, and this is actually functioning as a calendar. So now we not only see the difference that it's not just a commemorative panel, it is not something that goes on a burial stone, but something that functions for the entire society and continues to somewhat be used today. So the functions of their artwork have changed throughout time. We see that they're putting different values on different things, and so that's how the audience has also changed. In both artworks, we see that the audience is used for two different things. Now we put them in a museum and we look at them and we explain them and we think about why certain things have happened. But before, they usually for a burial stone, it was a process, a spiritual thing. It was a spiritual idea that they were doing in order to do this. And now we see that even we view it differently. The way it was viewed then is viewed different now. And we can even see that throughout history, because the Europeans came, looked at this, and thought it was a satanic ritual and burned all these codices down, which has changed a lot of things we can see and we can interpret about Mayan hieroglyphics. And so the fact that our viewing of this and our viewing of this art piece has not only shaped our own view, but has shaped history as a whole, because in fact we've destroyed a piece of culture because we've put our views on it, and that has just changed immensely what we could have known, what we could have seen, and it is a true loss to the artistic community and to the historical community as well. But of course we can still see it today, and as much of it has been conserved, though during digging probably a lot of it was lost, and they didn't take as much time to just take it out and care for it, but it's something we probably will work on with later artifacts, and something we should try to conserve as much. So thanks guys for joining me, and I hope you learned a lot.